Hello everyone, Zane here and welcome to another Final Fantasy XIV video. Today I want to go over my favorite spears for dragoon in Final Fantasy XIV. This is taking one lance or spear from each of the expansions in Final Fantasy XIV. So that's Realm Reborn, Heaven's Ward, Stoneblood, Shadowbringers, Endwalker, and Dawntrail, even though Dawntrail is not completed yet. So number 5 on my list is going to be the Stormblood spear, which is going to be from Shinryu Extreme. This is the glamour weapon. Now, without the glow, it was basically, a basic spear, but with the glow, it kind of gives it a little bit of a charm. So the head of the spear is almost like a dragon's like face, with a little bit of the little spikes on the top that will represent kind of like wings. On the shaft here, or towards the head of the spear, you have the archaic symbols going around it, which is pretty cool. Usually some of the relic weapons do have that kind of design, especially on Realm Reborn. The shaft itself is pretty long, which I do like a long shaft. Yeah, I know what that sounds like, but it is what it is. I do like the longer the spear, the better. As for the back of it, towards the end, I know a lot of spears are blunt, but I do like the pointy end of a spear just because disembowel looks better with a spear going into the enemy, not a blunt end going into the enemy. It just looks stupid with blunt ends. I know like jousting spears usually are blunt, so it doesn't hurt the jouster, but a pointed spear at the end does make it look better. So yeah, Stormblood is definitely the 5th one on my list of favorite spears. I usually would go with the relic weapons, but the ones in Eureka just looks horrible. So that's why I went with Shinryu instead of the relic weapon. So next is going to be number 4, the Dawntrail spear that you get from the level 100 Dragoon. So this one actually looks pretty cool. I do like the spear tip itself. It's very draconic, so that's why I kind of like it. It doesn't have a glow or anything like that, but sometimes relic weapons or weapons in general don't need a glow to look good. The shaft is one of the longest ones I've seen so far, which is pretty good. I just don't like short spears. They just don't look good, you know? And as for the end part, the pointy end, looks very almost similar to the front, but a little bit smaller. So it's definitely one of my more favorite ones of Dawntrail. I probably would go in with the relic, but we only have up to the, second or third phase so far. So ultimately I would have gone with that one, but this one looks just as good. So Dawntrail will be 4th on my list. So number 3, and this one was really hard, get it, is going to be the relic weapon from Heaven's Ward. So looking at the top of the weapon here, it has a motif of a dragon, which is pretty cool. The tip is bright red, as you can ultimately see. And basically the whole shaft of itself goes from a reddish to a bluish, going down to the pointy end of the spear, which goes back to red, which almost represents a dragon's tail kind of motif look. So yeah, this one definitely is probably going to be number 3 on my list. Zoom out just a little bit. So yeah, this one was a really hard decision to choose, but Heaven's Ward Relic, I think the beginning of it was one of my favorites. If we actually go into the menu here, it's this one right here. Okay, I can't really pronounce it, but that's the relic weapon from the Heaven's Ward expansion. Alright, now we're going to get up to the top 2 spears that I love the most. Coming in at number 2 is going to be the Endwalker Relic for the Manderville questline. Now this one doesn't have much of a long shaft, but it's mostly the head of the spear that I like the most. It's reminiscent of Nidstinian's lance, or when Nidstinian was controlled by Nidhogg at the top here, so it does have that kind of resemblance to it. The glow is pretty good. I like the dark blue with the little glowy parts of it. The shaft itself, like I said, is not as long, but it does fit the motif just fine, and the end is also pointy with a little bit of blue accents on it, which does glow or pulsates as the rest of the spear does. So this one is, I think, the 2nd to last or 3rd to last part of the relic weapon for Dragoon. So number 2 was pretty difficult, but this one definitely takes the cake. I do have one honorable mention, so I'll be going over that next before we get to my number 1. So my honorable mention is going to be the Shadowbringer's Spear. This is the Law Orders. Okay, so this one here, as you can see, the top of the spear is basically like the same with the Nidhogg motif, and the shaft is pretty decently long in my opinion. The end part of the spear is a bright red, or kind of like a faded red, which is pretty nice. But basically it's a pretty basic looking spear, nothing really to talk about. so that's why it's an honorable mention. But yeah, I try to take at least one weapon from each expansion, and this one definitely stood out above all the others. Okay, so now on to my number 1 pick. And coming at number 1 is of course going to be the Realm Reborn version of the bolg, which is the Atma version, because the regular version is purple, while the Atma version changes to blue. So this has to be one of the longest spears I've ever seen in Final Fantasy XIV, or even in history altogether. The fact is that this thing is supposed to be able to penetrate dragon hide, as well as the skull of Nidhogg, so that's why they made them so pointy. Now the end of it is a basic silverish color with a little bit of gold accents, but it's definitely one of my favorites because it's, like I said, one of the longest spears that we have in this game. The original is purple, but the blue definitely makes the accents of the red and the gold on the spearhead pop out. Now the good thing about this spear is, if you pull it out, as you can see, it's folded, but when you actually pull it out, it actually kind of rotates and opens up, which is pretty cool. So yeah, the bolg is one of my favorite spears in Final Fantasy XIV history with my dragoon, and this is the glamour that I ultimately use every single time. Even when it is sheathed, this thing points out taller than an Aura at max height, which is pretty freaking insane. Alright guys, so that's pretty much going to be all of my favorite spears from every expansion that we have so far, and hopefully in the future, in 8.0, we get something just as cool. Alright guys, so that's pretty much going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to check out the rest of my channel for more Final Fantasy XIV content, and I will see you guys in the next one. And sign off in the comment section down below which one is your favorite, even though I did not probably display your favorite. And that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you're new for more Final Fantasy XIV content and help with the YouTube algorithm. If you guys want to support my channel even further, consider becoming a YouTube member, Patreon supporter, or help me on Ko-Fi. The links for those will be in the description down below, as well as my Discord. And the extra special shout out to the members on screen. So until next time, may you forever walk in the glorious light of Lord Bahamut, and always remember to keep forging